Hey folks, Adam Brian Dada with another of the low reward living video series. Topic today is an answer to a question to start a conversation I think it's a complicated topic. The question was, how do I meet more low reward lifestyle men? How do I meet them and how do I form relationships with them? And relationships is a good term because when you create a single goal, one outcome potential, you're going to lead yourself to disappointment because anything that has only one goal is a higher reward behavior. So we're looking to create a relationship with other low reward men. And they don't have to be high value men yet, just men who have the mindset. That relationship might become friendship some days and business other days. It could be a collaborative effort where you work together. It could be an effort where one's a customer and one's a supplier. It could be someone that you want to train or be trained by, mentorship, protege even. But we want to form relationships with men who are lower reward. And the answer that I have is it's very difficult to actually meet guys like that. I tend to meet guys like that on first class flights or in VIP lounges. But you don't even know if that's the case because sometimes those are the worst kind of guys. Those are guys with the most drugs and, addictions. So that doesn't always work. So what I prefer to tell guys is rather than try and meet lower reward men, maybe you should introduce your friends that you already have, or your business associates that you already have, or your buddies at church that you already have, or your neighbors into some of the tenets of lower reward living. And that's really what this video is about today. Rather than trying to find people who are already successful at being patient, taking risks, making a financial cost involved, planning for contingencies and outcomes. Instead of finding guys who already understand this, maybe what you can do, and this is what I like to do, is introduce guys to your own cookbook. And one of the ways I like to do that is by saying a pretty simple statement that I try and say every day when I catch myself. What am I doing? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? I said it the other day on Facebook to a really good friend of mine who's been slipping lately due to being unemployed from the COVID. Instead of jumping in a car and driving for Uber or shopping for Instacart, making a few bucks an hour, he's doing nothing. So he's fallen into this crazy like LeBron James something or other. I don't even know what team that guy plays for. I'm assuming basketball. But I told him, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we having these discussions, these mindless discussions? Why are we doing this? He's a filmmaker. Why aren't we working on the next film? Why aren't we getting together? What is it going to take for me to introduce to you a lower reward option in this relationship that we have? Why are we having these discussions? I wasn't discussing anything about a basketball player. My God. I mean, what a loser. What a mindless loser. But I know the guy's a success. I know the guy can print money. I know the guy attracts hot chicks. I know the guy doesn't do drugs, doesn't get drunk all the time, doesn't eat junk food. He just did a rut. And what did I do as a man? A man is judged by the company he keeps. And what did I do? I failed my friend. I failed my business partner. I failed my customer. I failed my employee. I failed my collaborative partner. I failed him because I didn't ask him, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? I failed him. And you are failing yourself by not doing that with the guys that you consider men that you have relationships with. What are we doing? So that's really the first step into finding other men who are low reward lifestyles, is find out in your network who means it, who's serious. How many of your friends just want to talk about film or video games or sports or whatever just because they're mindless consumers? What are we doing? Why aren't we making a video game? Why are we not finding out how to make a video game? Why don't we do that? What are we doing? Why are we not out there playing basketball ourselves? Why don't we go buy a basketball from the thrift store and go to a basketball court and start throwing hoops and find a couple other guys who are doing that? Remember, it's a relationship you're building. You're not building a friendship necessarily. You're not building a collaborative partnership. You're not building a client client-supplier relationship necessarily. You're building a relationship, and that relationship between successful men could be anything. I am friends with my customers. I'm sometimes a customer of my customers. I am sometimes a collaborative partner of my friends, and that's how men are. We're adaptive because, again, we don't focus on one goal. I don't get mad when my friends go hang out with other friends. I don't get mad when my customers hire other consultants. I don't get mad when my directors or actors go work for other producers. I don't get mad about it. I have many options. I want to hang out with these people because I want to have a very multi-layered relationship with them. So how do I find lower reward living men? By asking people, what are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why are we talking about men in tights superhero movies and not making men in tights superhero movies? Why are we talking about how amazing it is that James Bond worked out 80 hours a week to look like, James Bond? Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we going into the garage and lifting heavy weights and saying, how are we going to look hotter on camera for our audiences? What are we doing? What are we doing? Why did we go out for pizza? To talk about this next project that we're going to go work on together. Why didn't we go for a walk together? Why didn't we go for a fasted walk? Why didn't we introduce options into the things that we do? Why do we always have to fall into these consumer mindsets and become little addicts supporting brands that aren't profiting us? Why are we doing this? What are we doing next? This is how I built my lower reward network. And some of the men in my network are quite successful now, and it hasn't changed our relationship because our relationship was meant to change. So it hasn't changed how our relationship is. I didn't lose friends to success. I have people that I've been friends with, who I'll be friends with again, who are more successful than they were before. But because they have taken on a lower reward mindset, we're able to adapt. We're able to be flexible. We're able to find new solutions and new avenues for whatever our relationships become, because we've built that together. And it started because one of us said, what are we doing? What are we doing next? Why are we doing this? Why are we taking in these? And that's something that I do regularly on social media. I ask people that I'm allegedly friends with, why are we doing this? Why are we having this discussion about politicians? Why are we having this mindless argument about what the best flavor soda is? Why are we doing this? Why are we fighting over a fried chicken sandwich that I'm not even going to eat? Why are we doing this? That's how you're going to start building your low reward network, by introducing men to your cookbook. This is the beginning, I guess, of a 2-week self-study on approaching men of value, not of value, whatever, and working to bring them into the low reward living goals that you have, and hopefully use them as they use you to keep yourself focused. And that's something that is one of the hardest things to stick to, because like everything, we need to have options. I want to hold my friends responsible for dragging me down. I want them to hold me responsible for trying to drag them down. It's very important. That's part of having relationships, whether it's with coworkers or bosses, whether it's with friends or family or neighbors. I want to hold each other responsible for when we try and drag each other down to some consumer high reward nonsense. And I have to do that. I'll tell that to my neighbor. He's like, hey, come on over, have some beers and watch the game. No, sorry, Benny, I can't do that. I'm trying to do A, B, and C of my plans. Would you like to be a part of it? Would you like to help me? I'm going to clean out my garage this weekend rather than watch the game. Would you like to help me clean out my garage Saturday, and I'll help you clean out your garage Sunday? And if we don't finish it, that's okay, because while we're doing that, subconsciously, I've got plans, options for us. Maybe we'll talk about our relationships with our wives or girlfriends or whatever. Maybe we'll talk about problems with our kids. Maybe we'll talk about, I'm having some issues with my car. Need to have the brakes done. Would you like to help out with that? This is how we build that. We build it by taking risks in other relationships. We help build a low reward network by investing money, our money, in relationships, even though they may not want to. We build a low reward network by having options and outcomes for what could happen in this relationship. We build low reward relationships by accepting that if something should fail, we're not going to get depressed because a failure of that relationship was one of the contingencies we planned. How is this any different than anything else low reward? How do you build low reward friendships? By living a low reward mindset in forming those relationships. It's no different than any other aspect of lower reward living. And when I get those questions, it always stuns me that I've done such a poor job explaining that low reward living does not mean not having fun. It doesn't mean not having consumer items or actions or behaviors in your life. It has nothing to do with that. You can still go out and have pizzas, drink your beers, smoke your weed, watch your superhero movies. It's not about that. It's about making those events celebratory because we had succeeded at one of the many options we had planned. And you can do that with your relationships that you have with men who are low reward. Let's go and clean out our garages. And then at the end of the day, let's have a beer together and watch the game that someone recorded for us. I don't even know how you record video anymore. I'm sorry, I don't know if it's TiVo or whatever. But let's first clean out our garages together. And second, let's celebrate if we get there. And if we don't get there, well, let's judge our activities that day. Maybe we started cleaning out our garage and you realized your car needed the brakes replaced, so we spent the day going to AutoZone and buying the parts and jacking your car up and replacing the brakes, and success. One of the many options that we had planned happened. And now we're at a point where we can celebrate our success by having a beer and watching the game, or playing video games together, or whatever it might be, going to a strip club, I don't even know. Whatever it is that you normally do that's considered a high reward behavior can now be celebratory because you've conditioned your brain that first we do something low reward and then we can compensate ourselves by a little bit of extra dopamine because, hey, you know what? We had a really successful planned day, a patient day. And we did it with someone we're forming a low reward relationship with. And most likely you'll start that with your neighbor or someone at church or a coworker or maybe a buddy that you haven't talked to in many years. You probably aren't going to form that with someone on Facebook. You might. I try and do it every day. I try and build relationships with people on Facebook and Instagram every day by holding them accountable, by holding myself accountable and asking them to help me hold myself accountable. But it's very hard to do on the internet because you don't know if those people are cheating and drinking beer while typing away at their armchair quarterbacking and saying, yeah, I'm going to be a successful TV director, but they're getting drunk on White Claw before they ever had a success. I hope that this video helps you see that lower reward options are all interconnected. They're all interconnected, all relationships with ourselves, relationships with others, relationships with stuff, relationships with activities and behaviors. They are all interconnected. And it boils down again to the things that I say all the time on these videos and in person and online. Risk, investment of time and money, patience, planned outcomes, not being focused on just one possibility. These are the tenets, these are the facets of lower reward living. And it doesn't mean you can't still have the consumer behavior. You do that at the end. You do that to celebrate. You do that even to celebrate failure, not just success, which is another video, how to celebrate failure, coming up later. But you do that when you have gotten to the end of that planned event and you've reached one of your planned contingencies, even if it's failure, even if it's not this ultimate success. You can be normal when you've taken care of your future self first. I hope after this conversation started, you reach out to someone in your life and you start throwing out a little bit of the low reward tenets and facets to try and see if they can be part of your low reward network later on. Share a piece of your cookbook with one of your friends or neighbors or coworkers or business partners or guys from church or whatever. I'm Adam Brian Dada, and this is the low reward video series.